there are women who I would meet at a club. We would have fun, and then the after party would be at some dealer's house, and that dealer or the fixer would be having cocaine on a table, and then we will just dip ourselves in until the next morning. So
K1.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the 20th Avenue podcast, Papa.
Erra, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we have royalty in the studio today.
I'm honored. I feel blessed. You are the one saying.
Yeah. No, let's get straight into business.
Yes, sir.
So when my producer was researching about you, she came running like furious.
Yeah.
Attitude, why do you want us to interview someone who was once a Satanist? I'm like, man, about K1.
Ow.
So there's a newspaper which had a headline. They'd interviewed you and they quoted you. I used to be a Satanist.
Yeah, I think you really do your research and you do it well, hey?
Yeah.
I think that was a guardian son or something. If it was not a guardian, yes, it was a guardian son or Midweek. No, but I think it was because the journalist, I think she did Midweek Sun and Botswana Guardian.
Yes, it's one company.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So just take us through that phase of you in that dark space.
And what essentially happened was the conversation was in a space where I was just speaking to the fact that, you know, when you, like, I would say, I don't know if to say legally or what, but if you what I was trying to define, I think maybe it would resonate well if we use the analogy of sinner, where the Bible says there is no small or big sinner. So when I was speaking at the time with the journalist, I was just trying to communicate with her that, you know, after I got delivered from my drugs, alcohol, and substance use, I found out that what I was doing still was within the realm of Satanism, because I was doing things that one way or the other, and if you analyze them deeply, if you think about them thoroughly, you would find that some of them could be accounted for worshipping the devil, because at the time you are not doing anything that is for the kingdom of God. And you know, talking about, if you know that your body is the temple of God, and if you now start to ingest or put things in it that are counter the temple of God, then you are using your body to worship the opposite power, which is the devil. If you are found in clubs, your name is being used to attract people to come for that worship session, which is like a night out in the club with K1, a homecoming party at some club, you know what I mean? That would be, you know, interpreted or amounted to devil or satanic worship. And I think that what she went out to do, so that she could maybe be able to catch the attention of her readers and also to sensationalize the story, she took that type of a route and say, I used to be a Satanist. And then she went out and dug for a picture that was a little, you know, gray, but dark, but it wasn't so bad. She looked for something that was as close as possible to what she could imagine for me to be meaning. Yeah, but you know what, even today, as I look at that story and think about it, I'm like, if I sit down and honestly, spiritually make an interpretation of that, if you are not in the kingdom of God, you are essentially in the kingdom of the devil. I might have been angry at that time with the headline, because we did not agree on it when she published the story. I think what I got was just a call when the story was already out and I had received a few calls, and then she told me a few words, and then, you know, I just said, she just made one or two promises just to calm me down, because even at that time I was in a different space. So he dangled a carrot in front of me, cooled me down, and the story went viral. People, I think the newspaper really sold a lot of copies in that week.
Did they give you royalties?
Nothing, you know, nothing at all. That's that space. You know what? If you are in that space, if you don't know your, I think, rights, or if you are in that space and you are not aware of certain things, then you are going to be hard dealt in so many ways. And you know, even today I don't think I would be going out to look for any royalties for the same. Yeah.
All right, so you did mention that you went to drug addiction, alcohol abuse and stuff. Yeah. Do you still remember the first time you took drugs?
It's vague, but I do remember that fateful after school day. I can't really remember the day or the date, but it was a day after school. We usually knocked off around is it 4 o'clock or something, and then what the boys would usually do, that I used to hang around with, because I had now started gravitating to a different type of friends. I've grown up as somebody whose parents or whose mother is Seventh-day Adventist, and then as I got into high school, I started participating in a lot of sports, extracurricular activities, including drama and debate. That was when I was at Form 1 around 1998. I got heavily entrenched into debate and sports and drama and others, organizing beauty pageants and entertainment things in the school. And then I started to, at that time, miss church, because most of these activities take place on a Sabbath day. So I missed church throughout my Form 1, Form 2, Form 3. When I got to junior high school, which was Form 1 and Form 5, I started using alcohol. I started using weed. I started using cigarette at high school in Sepapito. I think that was around 2001. And you know, it was one of those where you hang around long enough with a group of guys who smoke and drink when you don't do it, and one day it just happened. You are in it without really recognizing who passed it to you or who suggested or how. You know, I can't really point out to say, no, this guy said this to me or that guy. I was around those guys long enough. Like I had been hanging around with them during break time, after school. We walked together. We were just a bunch of guys who are the in guys of the school, the cool guys. And Bonnet, they are into alcohol, they are into smoking, and now I'm into motivation, I'm into drama. I would be with those guys, but I would still be with the academic kids who go for school trips for debate, who go for school trips for sports, who go for school trips for entertainment or drama's sake. So you know, that's why I was earlier on speaking somewhere, and I was saying, if you hang around a certain group of people long enough, sooner or later you're gonna end up in it. But it was around 2001 when I started. Some day after school, the same routine. Guys, they knock off at school, they walk together, they find a dilapidated house there, get inside, sit in a horseshoe or circle, start rolling, cracking jokes. Those of us that don't smoke are also there, just enjoying the ambience of the boys being boys. And then joints start rolling, cigarettes start rolling. Those who have money, they go buy some cartons of Chibuku Shake, others buy beer, and we start drinking. Then after that, we go to our houses. But it was in a similar space like that when I started using. Yes, sir. So
at which part now do you start like using that stuff? When did you graduate? Let me say graduate.
Yeah, now after Form 4, Form 5, which is 2001 and 2002, I think I spent 1 year, which was I think 2002, after we all finished our high school Form 5, and then everybody applied for varsity. Everybody went. I don't know, maybe I didn't have too much interest in applying for local schools, or it just happened by some type of fate that I ended up applying for a new university that was opening in South Africa called Monash University. Then I went to South Africa, Johannesburg, Rudiport, Rumseg, that Clearwater area by Strubens Valley, Rumseg. And then I started my school, and that's where I started to meet celebrities in the entertainment industry, because I was also doing doubling up as a fashion designer. I was doing poetry. I was into weed, and then the guys who I met in the weed space, some of them came in from private schools in Gaborone, Maruapula, and the rest of them Bolagaye and the higher schools. Then we met that side, the group and the circle grew bigger, and then there also came in other guys from other countries, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Swaziland, South Africa, and some of the people who came in were friends and some baby mamas of certain performers, celebrities in South Africa. And then, we got into the whole fold, creativity, organizing fashion shows, inviting artists into our varsity, and, we also moved into becoming the unique weed smoking group of intellectuals in the university, organizing poetry sessions into South Africa. We used to go to some places in South Africa called Bohora Cafe, where there would be a whole lot of smoking of weed and using other drugs. And now when you are also in that space, you start to fit and make sure that somehow you become a part of this society, this group of people. So that's how I starting from Bonebo 2003 going forward. My major drug of choice, or the one that I always usually enjoyed, was weed, and that's the one that I usually went out of my way to get and use. And alcohol, that one was just the standard plus cigarettes. But then, as for the hard drugs like cocaine, mandrax, ecstasy, and the other ones, it was a case of we go to places where they are having and we are having. So I never really invested into it, but I also was using so frequently because I was always caught up in spaces where the people I'm around are using, and then now and again line of coke, popping a pill and stuff like that. Yes, sir.
So do you remember your first line? The first pill that you popped?
I remember when I think that somewhere around end of 2003, somewhere around beginning of 2004, when I was coming out of Botswana, I had come to collect some traditional dance attire, because I had formed a traditional dance group for the Botswana who were staying in South Africa, in my region, Pretoria and Johannesburg. So we were going to perform, I think, at the Minister of Education then. I think that was Mr. Jacob Nkate was visiting for independence. So that group was called in to go perform for him, and I had to come to Bots. My father was a designer for traditional dance attire, so I borrowed from him, and then I went to South Africa. When I got off the bus by the engine filling station, there was like a white guy who just came out of nowhere. I was with some other two ladies. He asked us where we were going. We told him, no, we're just going to our lodging spaces this side. Like it was a dorm area for students, but it was like flats, like a residential complex like that. So he offered a lift for us, and then we went. And I was going to where my boys were, the ones we usually drank with and smoked with. And on that night, I remember when we got there, it was a party. I think it was a Saturday evening. It was like a big party. These guys, a lot of alcohol, a lot of weed. And then the white guy, he when we got into the house, there was a lot of guys. House like the sitting room closed, and everybody's in there, music loud, drinking, smoking. And then that guy, I opened the door. He came here. We had just dropped off the ladies. Opened the door. We came inside, and then boom, everyone is there. They're having fun, drinking. And this guy's like, oh, this is like heaven for me. He reached into his pocket, and then he brought about an ounce, like a kg of cocaine, and then some other things. Then he just put them on the table like that. Then we started doing lines there, and continued drinking and smoking until in the morning. Yeah,
that was the beginning of it.
That was the beginning of it. And after that, it was going to parties and after parties where you would find guys that have cutting a corner there, going to have right there and coming back to the space. Maybe you are at a club, and the guys that you are with and the girls, you go to the side, you pop a pill or you hit a line.
So it eventually reached to a point whereby you started looking for cocaine on your own without the white guy providing, but you would walk your way out to go and buy it.
As I'm saying, I never really was on the issue where I would be the one
initiating,
going to find it for myself. But the frequency was in such a way that it was always usually readily available, because I myself, for one, was the weed guy. Weed was like my drug of choice, and that's what I really went out to get all the time. The times when I did were always through someone. Yes, I think that's all that I can say in that regard.
That time when we were watching you on Big Brother Africa, like you had already started using, you like a full-time user.
When I was on Big Brother Africa, yes, because Ghana, the time I'm telling you about was now when I was at varsity. I was at varsity between 2003 or 2004 to 2008. And then I came back into Botswana, and then I think I was here for 2008-9. Towards the end of 2009, I went for Big Brother. Yes, sir. I think that was somewhere around May or something. Yeah. And then I went for Big Brother, and you can imagine, even though I never ever in my life never went out to look for hard drugs, they always found their way around me, and I never had the resistance or refusal mechanisms. Yeah, so as and when the opportunity availed itself, I would use. But weed, I was the guy who always had the last little joint for the morning. Everybody knew.
You knew how to hold the last part.
I was good, but rather it had been so many years at the time.
Okay, so you graduate at Monash, you come back to Botswana.
Yes, sir.
It's a different environment now. Are you still living that lifestyle of yours of like parties, sessions with friends, smoking weed, and sometimes like doing hard drugs and stuff like that? Because it's a different environment.
Yeah, no, I was already into the entertainment industry, and I didn't even think I was gonna work. When I got into the country, I linked up with my other smoking buddy, who I think he was also using drugs, but he never really opened out to me that he was into them. We really tried to fend our way into the entertainment industry, but it was so closely knit, and the circle was so tight that we couldn't break through. Trying to come up with concepts of, when I was at varsity, we used to organize shows, we used to organize cultural exchange programs, we used to do events like beauty pageants, we used to do fashion shows, all that, creative ideas. We wanted to do the same in the country, but we couldn't really crack the code. And then I registered for internship. There was a new government scheme that was coming for fresh graduates that ended me up in Kanye. Every graduate in the country had to go back to their home towns, where they will stay without paying rents, and the government would give them a small allowance, and they would be interning at a certain institution. And then I was in Kanye. I think I arrived I graduated 2008, I think, December, or towards the end of the year. And then I got into the internship program around, I think, March or something. And then I think auditions came for Big Brother around just a few months after I was enrolled into into that thing. And then I went for the auditions, and then I was taken for Big Brother The Revolution 2009. And then yes, I became the representative for Botswana. At Big Brother Revolution. So I was still using, but it was just part of my life.
You not yet hooked?
At the time, I would say hooked means you know, when I don't know how you would define it, but it means I was using regularly at the time, every weekend, every day, and every opportunity that I get. Weed, alcohol, and cigarettes. And at major events where we would have Son of the Soil, I would meet Son of the Soil comes after Big Brother. But at that time, wherever the major event and the opportunity were, and here in Botswana, I think I used less of the harder drugs because I was not already a part of the entertainment industry and people who had access to drugs, alcohol, and stuff, to the harder drugs like that. So now, what happened is I was hooked in such a way that I was a regular user. Now it was 2008, and I had started using in 2001. So I was 8 years into smoking, drinking, and weed, plus other drugs that I was doing as and when the opportunity availed itself. Yes, sir.
So how was it like now? You're in the Big Brother Africa house. You're a housemate. You're monitored. You can't take drugs, the illegal drugs. You only have access to cigarettes and alcohol. How are you coping?
Yes. Today somebody said that the young people always think that they have this supernatural strength of being able to have their body flush out whatever hard things that they take. I think I've been blessed enough to have a very strong metabolism and a strong body that I had not developed at the point when I was in Big Brother. The cravings I had not developed. I had not used to a point where I had cravings that if I didn't use, and I had never gotten to a point in my life where if I didn't use, it was problematic. Maybe it's because the kind and the amounts of alcohol that I took would be able to somehow level up the cravings and bring me up to a high and maintain me through that type of space where maybe the cravings were never really an issue. I didn't, because at a point when I would be needing, alcohol would be around, and enough alcohol to really put my system at a certain point. In Big Brother, you get enough whatever resources to get yourself and stack up for a whole week. So if you have 2 bottles of some hot stuff, and then you also have about 24 beers, and then you use them wisely during the week, and at the weekend they have party, they sponsor all the alcohol. So it was, I think if they had cut out the alcohol and the cigarettes, then it was going to be bad. Maybe something was really gonna show that indeed this guy now is hooked to a point where he can become problematic. Yes, sir.
So we'll come back to Big Brother Africa.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people want me to ask you about the experience in the house and stuff like that. Yeah. But I just want us to finish this chapter. So you eventually get evicted out of the Big Brother house.
Yes, sir.
You're now a celebrity. The whole of Africa knows you.
Yeah.
Everyone wants you to headline their events.
Yes, sir.
You're getting bookings left, right, and center.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you do when you come to Botswana from the eviction party?
After the eviction party, that side, now there is, I think, one of the biggest welcome, one of the biggest airport welcome sessions that I've ever seen for anyone in the country, because the whole airport was filled up and traffic was jam-packed. People were waiting for us just by the door there. I think I nearly cried, but I had to hold my tears together at the time, because I was still coming up with this thing. And then after that, it was autographs, parties, VIP, and free everything. Free alcohol, free women, free clubbing, free food, free. So, you know, and one thing about myself is that I had never really lived my life with this type of plan that I want to pen my life out like this. I want to gather this up so that I can end up doing that and become this and that. I was always happy when I was high, enjoying with people and having a good time. So even when I came back into the country, and now the life that I think I had paused for some time at Monash University was now elevated, because as you are saying, I was known by people. Everybody invited me to their bar. Everybody invited me to their party. And that is where now that idea of using the harder drugs just outside weed, alcohol, and cigarettes resurfaced, because I started now being offered at those parties by the people who were there to use things like cocaine. There's, I think the other one is it LSD, where you put something into that spoon and you burn it, and then you have to inhale some, and then some other times we could needle, but that one we haven't done a lot. So because it was always at events, and then I would get rid and out of the high tomorrow, but never really go out looking. There are women who I would meet at a club, we would have fun, and then the after party would be at some dealer's house, and that dealer or the fixer would be having cocaine on a table, and then we will just dip ourselves in until the next morning. So that life did start again, and we started headlining parties, the homecoming party with K1, Maung, Francistown, Gaborone, and a whole lot of jobs that always ended up in binge drinking. Yeah.
So do you at times bump into these women, these drug dealers, the fixers in the current life?
Yeah. Of recent, I met one of the guys who one of the ladies took me to his house, and funny enough, I'm running a campaign against drugs, alcohol, and substances, HIV, AIDS, and gender-based violence. And this guy is brought by a guy that I'm doing this event with, and he's coming in as a patient, as a drug addict. But at that time, he was a fixer. You know, he was running a distribution point, and he was bringing into the country one of the best cocaines. And you know, we just caught up there. When he came, I didn't really remember him properly, but after some time, it was like, hey Fix, is this you? Hey, no, this is me. Man, where do I know you from? And then we started, you remember the time when I came up with so and so and so and so and so and so? I'm like, oh yeah, you're the guy who had a mountain of cocaine on his table at the time, and we, you know what I mean? So he was there battling his own demons. I am here 9 years clean, coming up with this type of interventions for users and caretakers of people that are using. So I do bump into them here and there, but my life right now is so a different direction that it is in very few occasions that I get to meet such people. Yeah.
So how would you tell that this is good cocaine? Nah, this is it's mild. I
think what usually happens is that the cocaine that ends up not being the good one, they turn it into crack cocaine, mix it with other things to make it cheaper, and then they sell it as a small matlapanyana. They also do other things to enhance the high. But usually good cocaine will not put you in a space of drowsiness, and it doesn't slow you up, and it heats you up, sometimes even cleans your eyes, make you sharp, and it gives you like a very, very nice attentive high that puts you on the spot and makes you enjoy your environment at the time. And what's happening is that you see things clearer, sounds are more sharper, you know what I mean? But then you would do other type that would now make you drowsy, make you feel tired, and then you would know that this is not the good stuff. There are people who start really using to a point where by just tasting, they will tell you, oh, this is original stuff, this is not good stuff. By just snorting, they will tell you that you would have needed to use so much that you start to develop that acquired taste for the types and for the taste that it has. But I was not there yet. I could make a difference by just knowing this type has now gotten me tired. I'm not as sharp as if I've done a good hit. I think the only thing about this type of hard drugs and the other ones, the hard drugs take a shorter time to develop chemical hooks, and also to give you this for your body to develop tolerance, for you to need a much more bigger dose than the last one. Yes.
Okay. So K1, why are you getting all this money to buy drugs? Like, drugs are expensive. So no, hasn't changed the price ever since during the time when you're smoking it up to today. Apparently it's 10 pull-up per sachet.
Minus the change in price is really slow, and usually also the 10 pull-up per sachet for weed would only be equaled with the price by the size. You understand? Like, if it's really good stuff, back then you would get so much of it, but now for 10 pula, but now you get so much of it. That's the only difference, but you still have the same prices going. But as for cocaine, the cheaper things right now, it's the ones that are not really like good stuff. But the real question I think that you're asking me is, where do we get the money? But as I said, I was not the one who would go out to buy for self the drugs. I would always be found in situations where the drugs are available and I would use. But the stories that go around is that you start using your own money, and then later on you start selling your things, and later on you resort into getting other people's properties and items and equipment and things to find the money. If it's children, the money that they get given for whatever reason by their parents, they channel them to those things. Later on, things are starting to miss in the house because you want to support the habit. And then there's now a chain reaction, domino effect of things happening to you.
So you didn't reach a stage where you started selling your clothes?
Nah, I was never there. I was never there. I think my rock bottom, as people usually say, was not other people's rock bottoms. My life had this 5-year cycle of, when it gets to 5 years, on the 6th year, something just has to happen by itself, that I move from one stage or one state of how things are into another one. So by the time I came to quit, I was using for pleasure, for joy, and also for, you know, when the cravings come, but they were not as deep to a point where I started selling my things to now be in there. I think I was always protected by the Lord to not get hooked to that level, or to enjoy this thing so much that I would go out of my way to want to make it my primary drug of choice. Yes, so I was never really at that state. I got to a point where it was imminent. It was all things were adding up together that I must come out before I was totally hooked to a point where I was that desperate. Yeah.
So in one of those newspapers, no worry, you're not only addicted to drugs and alcohol, you're addicted to sex, masturbation, and other things. So what was going on in your mind? At which stage would you feel like, no, I want to have sex, I want to drink alcohol, I want to take drugs, I want to masturbate?
Those things, my brother, they happen just by you don't have to make a plan for it. Hey, sometimes like you would be watching porn and then you get a hard on and then you masturbate. Yes, sometimes you're sleeping and then you get a boner and then you masturbate. And then sometimes you are there, after some time without you. And I think in the world, masturbation is really something that's been normalized, that people don't see as a problem. And as and when you just want to relieve yourself, you do it. So that's what we also did. I think people also want to only term addiction to be when somebody is a hobo, when they go around drooling, or when they become a problem sexually, because they say when they start becoming a problem sexually to the people around them, their neighbors and their friends. But this process addiction of knowing that every time I want to relieve myself, I can masturbate. Every time I want to relieve myself, I can watch porn. It's something that there are people who are addicted in such a way that they know that every weekend we must, and it becomes really tough for you. There are people right now who are clean, who are working, who have families, but they have those addictions, but only because they are not being seen around the street with torn, tattered, dirty clothes, beaten out by life. People don't deem or consider those people to be addicts, but they are also equally addicts. And that's the type of addiction that I was already at, that I had tried so many times to come out of. So you would be in a night of drinking, smoking, and masturbation and watching porn. Sometimes you could do all these 5-6 things in one night. You would smoke, drink, pop a pill, take a line, watch porn, and masturbate in the same night. And that's just not a problem. Yeah.
In the middle of it all, you get called again, go Big Brother Africa. That's 2010, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you are heavily into using, but you get called into the house.
We did Big Brother, the All Stars. Yes, sir.
So how do you manage to balance again? Because it's different from the time when you're still like a light user. Now you are like a present.
In the industry of use.
Yes.
Or in the space of using. Yeah. What I can just say once again, not to repeat what I said again, I think God blessed me with a strong mindset to be able to. God has always made sure that He is in control, even in my stupid ways, of my mind and my ability to contain myself under pressure for any situation. And even during the time of use, my treatment of alcohol, drugs, I think the manner in which I use drugs, alcohol, and substances, plus any psychotropic substance, was in such a way that I get a high. And when I gain it, I become satisfied. So whether it was through the hard drugs, the weed, or whatever, I always got to that satire space. So even when I was in Big Brother, I found the high from using drugs, alcohol. From using, when I was in Big Brother, I found the high from using alcohol is like, when we would get a chance to buy, I would make sure that I have enough hot stuff, because when you have things like body KWV, Johnny Walker, if you buy Gordon's, Russian Bear, you would be really getting some potent stuff. And then you binge on it, it gets you, what you call it, it blacks you out sometime, or you find yourself out sleeping. Then you sustain that until you come out. Yeah.
And then you eventually get evicted, and then
yes, sir.
This is when now Botswana start knowing what K1 is using.
Yes. This one's that's where I was talking to that issue where I would be in Francistown, invited to do a homecoming party with the people of Francistown, and the guys who own the club or the bar would even have in the line of menu things like drugs, or they would be using themselves, and they invite you in, and you find yourself with those guys and you use. And then the guys that I also hung around, some of them within the industry, like the guitarists, the vocalists, the other celebrities who I knew, we would find ourselves, as and when everybody's eventually gone, some of them and some of us using. Yeah, and most people got to start to know that I'm using after that interview that I did that said I used to be a Satanist. But before then, we lived our life in a private space. And I had never gotten to a point where I could be erratic or act in such a way out there or in front of the people where I could expose myself.
You're not pulling those Diego Maradona stunts?
Nah. Yeah, never. Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. So let's just talk about the best part that people want to know. Everyone, like almost every young person's wishes is to be in the Big Brother Africa house. Yeah. How was the experience, Elada?
It was a great experience for the time, and between now and my last appearance, I think we are now clocking to about more than 12 years or something. 2010, right now is it 13 years. 13 years right now. So it was nice. It was beautiful. I was like a budding entertainment guy. I wanted to find myself in the space where the world can know me. I wanted to chase fame. I wanted to chase fortunes, money, and women. And all those things were both present in the house and somewhere outside the house. So I could say Big Brother was nice, but to me, it was also like a sequel of my experience at Monash University, but now it was in a more enclosed space, because when I was at Monash, we used to have people from every other country in Africa and outside of Africa, and we also used to live the same type of life here. Clubbing and drinking and binging, smoking was similar to the one that we had in Big Brother. So it was like a continuation of the type of lifestyle that I used to love. Partying, drinking, girls, and all that. I think the devil really knew how to distract me, or what he could get out of me to make sure that I veer out of a good behavior. Yes.
So did you get any like inside the house?
I personally never found myself on top of anybody or nobody on top of me, even though I was pursuing. But I think also I had these I had this moral thing also going on, thinking about my family, my parents. You must also remember that before I went to Big Brother, there was a major story of the predecessor, the lady who just went before me, of them having sex in the house and stuff like that, and the local people were not really happy. But even against that, Hella and my family, you know, the ways that my father used to tell me as I grew up, you know, wherever you go, make sure you never forget where you come from, your family's name. So those things were also still ringing in my mind, even while I was that wild. But I always had some type of integrity and a feeling of honor that I wanted to keep. So I don't think even if there was someone, unless if maybe I was caught in a drunken stupor, but in my senses, I don't know if I would have done that in the house.
Publicly?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, like, what benefits did you reap from BBA?
Yeah, BBA came with fame. I still today, you know, I'm here with you now talking. People still have interest. There are people who have never seen me since I came out of the house. Their last memory of who I am is that guy in the house. They want to hear my story. It presented me. I can go to any city in Africa right now and people would treat me like I'm their family. And I was a member of each and every household. Everybody knows Rural Swag. It came with that fame. And when I came out of Big Brother as well, as you were saying, there were jobs lined up here and there. There was an opportunity for me to represent brands and to also do certain campaigns with different companies and government organizations. And yeah, I also traveled a bit of African countries to participate in different types of events there. Yeah, so, you know, I saw the world. It opened doors for me to travel, to expand my mind, to see people, and, you know, culturally to see how, and, you know, beyond just Big Brother being an entertainment thing, it's also like a psycho-scientific experiment of seeing how humans would behave if they are all closed under a very small space, you know what I mean? So it also improved my interpersonal relations skills, how to deal with people. Right now I can go almost anywhere and call one of my housemates and say, I'm in your city, do you have a place I can sleep, you know? And sometimes I could rock up to almost any radio station, introduce myself and remind people who I am, and then I will have food to eat, or maybe I would have a job to do. I can hustle almost anywhere in Africa, yes.
Yeah, so Big Brother Africa, you finally get evicted. You're back to the world now.
Yes, sir.
And you eventually try to quit. But you're feeling, there's a time where you're feeling like extremely low and everything's not going well. And you eventually get invited to church by your sister in Muchudi.
Yeah. What was essentially happening, as I said before, my life had this, like, I was born in Kanye. And then I grew up in Moshopa. By the time I was 6, I moved into Gaborone to come and start my standard 1 primary school. By the time I was doing standard 6, I moved to Kanye. And then after another about Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, Form 5, that's another 5 years, I moved to Joburg. And then after my university experience, that's another 5 years. On the 6th year now, I'm in Big Brother. And then I'm in the entertainment industry from 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 2015, that's when I got released. That's another space of about 5 years. So there has always been this 5-year loop that I was not in control of, but that happened. And when that time hit the spot, a change really had to happen. So you see, when after I came out of Big Brother, I tried to also get into the entertainment industry. I moved because I was on internship. So after I was finished with the second Big Brother, immediately after the first Big Brother, I moved my internship from Kanye, where I was working as a youth development officer at the Southern District Administration Authority, to come to Gaborone, and I was now working at the mass media complex as an intern at RB2. I did production for Gaona when she was still doing her program, which was running, I think, from 12 to something.
Just hold on.
The midday.
You're saying that you became an intern?
Yes, sir.
After you've been on Big Brother Africa?
Yes, after I was on Big Brother. Botswana is such a very complex space, especially for artists and creatives. So what happened is, I think also even for myself, I didn't have that what I wanted to do was to go into radio. So I transferred from Kanye, where I was interning, now to Gaborone at RB2, where I was now working on radio, because my whole point was to end up being a radio presenter or slash DJ. So when I got there, I started doing production, and then later on they gave me a midnight show that we grew to a huge amount of listenership. And then I started to want to now audition to be given a slot as a presenter, freelancer. I auditioned about 4 times, but they never got me. So in 2012, I resigned from internship, and then I got into the streets, and then I started hustling. And then I was in the streets trying to record music, trying to organize shows, meeting other celebrities, traveling around, making shows, emceeing at events, doing this and that, weddings, appearing at events, making money, chowing it off the drugs, of the substances, of the weed, of the alcohol and of the cigarettes for that space of time ever since I came out of Big Brother in 2010 until 2015, and then and my family was always trying to reach out for me, come back home, Then I was seeing that now the opportunities that I was having to become anything in the industry were starting to dwindle down, because I was starting to become almost schizophrenic, bipolar, double personality disorder. But by God's grace, as I told you, I had a very strong mental abilities to retain and maintain my type of, if I could say, sanity, even during my time of use. So I was still left with a little brain to try and navigate myself around. But I would be caught in meetings where I'm trying to sign deals or for endorsements with companies or with people who saw me performing, who knew I was on Big Brother. But then, at some point I would be found absent-minded. Then people would tell quickly that I would be red-eyed, because on my way to a meeting, you would find I would stop to have a joint. And I would maybe sometime get into that meeting smelling of the weed, sometime of the drug. And after a certain period of use, as somebody who uses alcohol, drugs, and substances, it don't matter how good or how better or how much you wash or clean, you start to reek of it. You have a smell, like a latent smell that sticks to you of either cigarettes, alcohol, or what. And once you just smoke one cigarette, it can just trigger out that smell and you're around. So I would find myself absent-minded. I would find myself not in that space so much that, and you would imagine that people want to entrust you with their brands. But once they start to pick some red flags, they start to say, oh, no, we can't support this guy because he's not in the right space of mind. I guess maybe he uses a lot of weed, or he drinks a lot, or he has something that would not resonate with our brand. And then, in between that time, now we are moving towards, and I was staying in houses. We are not paying rent well because we are not making money. We are not even staying with my mother was just also bleeding a lot of money trying to help me to finance these crazy ideas that were born during weed smoking sessions, but never really came to fruition. So it was one of those situations where now the time had come. I had also moved from that place. I was staying somewhere in Gaborone West at a back room of some yard with some guys who also had their own baggages, and we were just living for weed and for coming up with ideas on how we can improve our lives that never really came to life. And if at all we would come up with something that makes money, the money would go back to weed, to alcohol, to cigarettes, and some time for those guys who now brought in the harder drugs. That would just be the cycle of our lives. And then nothing happened. And my parents, in between that time, my sister was in the lead. My mother was just agonizing and praying for me. But my sister would often come to me and suggest that I move with her to Muchudi because she had a house there, and the husband, my brother-in-law, was a really nice guy. He allowed for me to come in, and she kept on inviting me, or my brother, please come back home. We have food in the house, we have everything. And also myself, I had come to a point where nothing was really adding up. The industry had already chewed me up, frustrated me, and I think they had already also seen that I'm not city streetwise. I'm not about really going out there and getting the money and the business to sustain my life. The money and the business that I got was to sustain the habits that I was in. Because I made money. There were times when I would be just called to do a poem, 20,000, 10 minutes, and I would blow up that money. Tomorrow I would be emceeing a certain wedding, 5,000, another. I would make in excess of about 30K in like 3 months consecutively. If it gets dry, then I start making my 10,000 over a period of 1 year and a half. But all that money goes into drinking. So that ended up getting myself stagnant, and I became that guy who is just a drunkard. When we are in parties, instead of me networking, finding opportunities for myself, I'm all about where's the after party, where are the girls. So the guys, and I was also like a very bubbly person, life of the party. So I used to when things really get hot, it becomes nice. Ladies love being around me. So the guys would also want me around their group, because once I'm drunk, you can't stop me. I'm all over the place, cracking jokes, having fun, lighting up the place, making it lively. Ladies would want to go where I'm going, and the guys would provide all that. So my sister kept on coming to me, Kawane, please come home. We can take care of you. Please come and be. We love you. Da 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 da. And I used to tell them, guys, I'm the one who has been to Big Brother. I'm the one who has a degree. I'm the one who is organizing events. We used to organize events with some other guys that I used to stay with, where we will call in people living outside of Africa, from America, from Canada, from Europe. They would come here. We would take them to some cattle post there. They would do more the local tourism. They would spend a weekend there, checking out how the people of that locality live at their cattle post, how they do their life. Then they pay us. We drink the money. We smoke the money. All that we had to show were memories and pictures of how it was nice when so-and-so came at GICC. We were with this one and this one. And I had guys there who were now going into their 50s with only memories to show, still living in their parents' houses. And something was already starting to work in my mind and to track up and say, no, it's time you move. It's time you elevate. And I was just seeing, this is not my space. And the providence of God also, somehow, that was my rock bottom, because I couldn't take care of myself anymore. I was just living for that life of alcohol and other drugs when they were provided. And also, there was no future in that. And then I somehow ended up, one day my sister came to GWest, collected the little that I had in that small room. I think one thing that I still have from that life is a futon like this one. And but I didn't have nothing at all. They collected some of the tables that I used to use to do some leather. I used to do some artifacts and sell them for a lot of money, leather work. I would sometimes get an order to dress the bride and all the bridesmaids. I would be getting money for that, but all of it would end where? weed. They give me deposit, I buy material, what remains behind, I drink it, I smoke it. And then they give me the rest of the money after I deliver. I drink and smoke that money with them at their wedding, and when the wedding is done, I'm going back home with nothing. Because that just used to be the trajectory of my story and life. Now, my sister took me to Muchudi. I stayed with her for some time. When I was there, I was basically at a point where I was now in the war to come out, but I was still using weed. I could go but I was still in the war until eventually they were going for a camp meeting, and then I assisted them to go to the camp meeting. When I was at camp meeting and we were offloading, I saw two girls who were interested in me, and then I went back home with them. I got my one man flip and boom tent, this tent that you just throw and it sets itself up there. And then I came to join them for the camp with the aim of fishing one of them ladies who was there. But I ended up at that camp meeting in a prayer room, and some of the ladies there, Seventh-day Adventists, and the men, they prayed for me. I was so scared, but then I came back. I created the camp meetings around August. I came back into back to Gaborone. There was a guy who was also an ex-convict who right now runs a rehab, who is starting up a rehab facility in Bukade called Motesi Jacomo. The rehab is called Biro, Botswana Institute for Rehabilitation and Reintegration of Ex-Offenders. So I was volunteering in his organization to help them with communications and marketing and organizational setup, just to set up the whole structure to make it a professional thing. So I was there helping this guy out, and then I ended up, when I was at the camp meeting, I was already with him because I was staying at my sister's house. When I was at the camp meeting, I thought I was out. Then I came back, and then I'm like, Mote, you have to also come out. And then when that happened, I thought, this guy is in. Maybe what I can do is to go back to using and come out with him. And then I relapsed. But then November of the same year, because I was volunteering at Biro, there were some other parents who brought their children to Biro. We as Biro went to a Seventh-day Adventist, that was now 2015. Okay, we went to the Seventh-day Adventist church and asked that we may join their youth camp. And then some of the children who their parents had brought to Biro for rehabilitation, we took them to Kasane at a youth camp. And at that youth camp, I spent the whole week in, when you go for a youth camp, there are excursions, people go out to enjoy, and there are sermons and there's music. I spent the whole week in the prayer room. And when we were in the prayer room, we prayed for people, because I had already had an experience with prayer. And I was also always speaking to my mom about the power of prayer and how the Seventh-day Adventist church lacks the power to deliver people. And before I went for that camp, I was at the point where I asked God, I'm going for this youth camp. When I come back, I would love for you to give me the ability to be able to respond to life without drugs, alcohol, and substance stimuli. I want to enjoy life because it is life. I want to enjoy jokes because they are funny. I want to see something beautiful because it's beautiful, not because there is a stimuli between me and that thing. And that's why I'm saying there were a lot of factors that came into my coming out, my family trying to pull me out, and that 5-year loop also starting to push me that no, I need to now get to a change. And then I myself also having the willingness to now be clean. I was saying, God, I want to have the what am I call it? I told God that I want to have the innocence of a child. When children are laughing at something, they would just be laughing and cracking because they are enjoying the moment and they're all over the place, bubbly and responding to life as it comes to them. And I said, God, I really want that. And then I went to Kasane for that youth trip. And in that youth trip, I was never prayed for. but I was engaged. The very same young people who got me to the prayer room at the camp meeting were also present at the youth camp, and they took me to the prayer room. I saw them praying for people. I got into the whole thing of praying with them for people. I saw the people being exorcised of demons. I saw the power of God moving in and delivering young people, including one of the young men that I had brought there for rehab, because their parent had allowed for us to go with him. So when we got there, they were praying for this young person, and as they were praying, the demon started to manifest, and as it manifested, it told us that that young boy had come into camp with cigarettes, with 2 matchsticks and a little scratch of matches, and it had put them under a pillow. I was so surprised because I went with the guy who had brought me to the prayer room to that boy's dorm, and we found those things exactly where they were. And that gassed me. And I saw that the power that is able to deliver these people is the same power that can keep me from the cravings of cigarettes, of alcohol, and of weed. Now, starting from that time, I cried, I confessed, and I told the Lord that I am delivered by what I saw happening. That was December 2015. December 2014. That was the and you know, some of the funny things was that even while I was going for camp, I had stopped to go and smoke weed. There was a guy in the church who took me. We went into Mogoditsani, we smoked. So what I'm trying to say is that even at a place where your deliverance is, there is always going to be some type of temptation that's put there by someone, or the powers that are beyond us. Even when I got to camp, there are guys who know me, who knew where I was coming from, who tried to suggest that we must go behind the classes right there, to have a smoke. And some of them used to leave the camp at night to go and drink, and they invited me. But at that point, I think the Spirit of God was in my favor, because I spent, when I woke up, I went to the prayer room. When I left the prayer room, I went to sleep. After, the only other places I went was to the hall to eat. And then when we came back from the camp, I never looked back. I went straight into mission 1 year. We went into Kopong. We started to pray for people. People were delivered. We prayed for people. People were healed. We got into serving the Lord straight 1 year. I really got into a point where I didn't want to leave space for anything. The cravings were there, but because of exercise and being around a group of people who encouraged me, who prayed with me, I never looked back. My family gave me the support. I was still with my sister. 2015, around September 2016, I got a job. I was called in by the government of Botswana to work as a PR officer. And then after we came back from Kasane, in the midst of, I think, before I got to work, we came back from Kasane in the beginning of 2015. I spent the whole 2015 in the mission, and then I think there was another camp that happened in December of 2016, and then something happened there. There was another camp, but I met my wife. I met my wife at a prayer camp that we organized in the May of 2016, and then after that, we spent a whole year in the May of 2016. I met my wife, and then in September I got the job. And then in 2018, I got married. And then in 2019, I had my, what are we in right now?
2023.
Yes, in 2019, I had my firstborn son. And then we are here now. I'm 6 years into this marriage thing, going for 7. And my boy is 5 years old, looking to turn 6. Somewhere during the space of this year, and I have been 9 years clean since 2015 until today. I think I'm getting into my 9th year. I do a lot of advocacy against drugs, alcohol, and substances. I do campaigns. I go to schools. I go to churches. I find every other space that I can to share my testimony with people and to show them that you can use for as long as you can, but once the time comes where there is something more valuable than the space that you are in, nothing will stand on your way. I'm currently mentoring one guy to come out. I don't want to burden myself. I refer many people who come to me, but depending on how close I am and the value of the relationship we have, I do mentor, because right now I do a 9 to 5. I really don't have time. I'm also involved by the government of Botswana through the Department of Drug Enforcement Agency. It is in the Ministry of Justice and Security, the Drug Enforcement Agency. They are running a nationwide campaign against drugs, alcohol, and substances. I do the motivationals for them. Even in the church here, I have come up with a support group for parents and caretakers of people who are living with substance use disorders, where it is a space where parents and caretakers of people who have substance use disorders come together and then they encourage one another. They share their stories. We've already had one symposium. I also work with NGOs. Like, we just came out of a campaign called the City to City campaign against drugs, against HIV/AIDS, and against gender-based violence. And on the 19th of November, we are having a walk Molapse for Christ. That is going to be another walk. This one is just saying this December we are going to Port Elizabeth as Adventist young people. We want to raise funds to maybe support other young people who don't want to spend December in drugs, alcohol, and substances to be a part of our camp. I was saved at an Adventist youth camp. I want to create another opportunity for someone to also be saved in the same way. Thank you.
Hey, that's a very serious story, bro. Like a serious journey that you went through.
Yes, sir.
You fought it.
By God's grace. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So, in closing here, like we like I won't say much. Like Kayo poet, the ones that used to
this is a corner.
Yeah.
That's like I really have to now come out of the okay. Put on another hat. Chekwana tlalo le makokoma ese makokoma ile di chaka di sega magale metsi kokomologileng khometa tse monna ga botso poto kwa hala kana ga bo khometa mola mo anta Jabo ipolela jana ke sa tle ka bo haswa jwa mahoko ke sa tle ka go phaphaduka ke sa tle jana ka go ipoka ke itshwantsha ke ipapanga ke ipega godimo ke tla ke pagame godimo ga diphuka tsa ga morana Jesu Kristi yo ke le ha ka ene ke bolela ka ha ntshitseng ka teng go tswa tlase ko tenteng ga sebe a tsana o tsa ka di ba tseleng ya kgosi ke bua ka ke ntse yo ntseng morano wa barena ke bua ka monno wa baswagadi ke bua ka ene rragwe ba ba senang borra bone bua ka tsala rona ya boammaruri eno e leng bokhutlo go tswa go tshimologong o e leng tshimologo ko bokhutlong o o itseng gore palo ya thiri tse di motlhogong tsa ka dikae ga je batle go ipolela ka go ipoka le go ipolela ka bohatswa jwa mahoko je batla gore tjere kolotswe ja bolela